Welcome back into the film room, guys. Another season has kicked off this weekend. I'm your host, Eric Turner. We're going to be having pinch hitters all year. We're going to be doing a different format. Nate Geary is going to be in here from time to time, and my boy from Disguise Coverage, Anthony Prohaska. What is up, brother?
Man, I can't believe we haven't done. I was thinking about it today when we were talking about doing the film room over the weekend, and I was like, man, it's been such a long time since we were last doing these and breaking down all the Bills games, and then we did the episode on diagnosing all the run game struggles. But dude, like you just mentioned it offline, like, you're tired from this weekend. I'm tired from this weekend, but it doesn't matter because we're talking football. Like, I'm pumped. The Bills are back. Training camp started. Preseason started. The regular season's around the corner. And we're back in the film room, so I'm pumped to be here as always, and I'm excited to break down some, honestly, really good film that we got from the first preseason game.
Yeah, it's preseason. A lot of people don't like it, but a lot of nerds and film junkies like ourselves, we love it. And it's really one of the first times that I can say since covering this team the last, 6-7 years now, that the team hasn't been deeper. And I mean, I don't want to say preseason doesn't matter as much, but I feel like this preseason has a purpose, more of a purpose than prior years, where we're trying to see like what type of depth we have or what type of talent we have. But this year, this preseason seems a little different. I think the narratives, because there's only a few spots to make this roster, the narratives, the storylines, the shortened preseason, it kind of ramps up evaluation for just specific positions. And wouldn't you agree with that? And what are your thoughts and takeaways from the preseason overall?
Oh, normally, so it's funny that you mentioned it because I mentioned it several times throughout Disguise coverage. Like, this year is such a different year as a Bills fan. Normally, we're used to like having draft picks that were like, okay, this season hinges on this guy, or this season is so important, and we're expecting like first round picks to be a day one starter who's doing like all these things. And yeah, now that we've got this deep roster and we've got draft picks, even Rousseau and Basham and guys like that towards the top, you're looking at more like rotational roles than you are like these, heavy snap count type things. So it's a different way to look at the preseason this year, but I love preseason regardless. I love college football. I love the draft. I got no problem watching a random preseason game into the fourth quarter, seeing backups of dudes, who I loved in college or scouted coming into the draft. And so preseason's always been cool for me. And this year is, it's a cool perspective to be able to watch. There's less on the line and a less sense of urgency. Because like if you've got some of the young guys that are struggling, it's still okay because a lot of those guys don't need to contribute for us to win. So if some of the guys don't do, like if Rousseau came out and looked terrible, the season is not lost. But in previous years, it was like, if Sammy Watkins came out and looked terrible, you were like, great, well, there goes the franchise. We missed it again. I hate being on shows with Greg and Eric because their hair is so great. And I always rock like a low cut fade. And I just feel like I
respect the fade though, man. I respect the fade. Yeah, I mean, if you got a fade, you're cool with me, man.
I appreciate it, but it's just not the same as the hair game that you guys rock. But yeah, preseason's
Josh,
dope.
Appreciate it, buddy. Appreciate it. Hey, Josh, like we said, man, we've missed it too, and we are gonna get to some of the film here. But I'm glad you talked about like those role players and maybe guys not having to really take the burden of like, hey, I need to show out in this one game. We're most of the roles of this team, because they're so deep, are figured out. So trying to see, some of those surprises, those standouts. And I mean, it's hard not to talk about, the Bills' first round pick in Gregory Rousseau when you talk about standouts from that 16-15 win against Detroit. Am I wrong?
I mean, first drive, third down, makes a really great play. And he's been a standout since his name got called because of two things. So for, I think a lot of people who did draft prep saw the pick and understood the positional need, but thought maybe he was a little surprising at that pick. And then you had just the regular casual fans who saw the stats, the raw stats from his year at Miami, and saw his size and were just like, oh my God, this guy's going to be amazing. So he's been a standout from the moment he got drafted. And then you see all the pictures of him and McDermott and Bean and how huge he is and all this stuff. And then with each practice, more momentum, more good things, things. And then he, he showed up as advertised in that first preseason game from that first drive. And he was solid throughout. He had 12 pass rush snaps, and he had 3 pressures on that, 1 sack, 1 QB hit, 1 hurry, like a really good performance for a guy who still isn't anywhere close to refined or polished, but is a guy who's just relying on traits and ability right now, and he's already standing out.
Yeah, he's been standing out every training camp practice, and so you're trying to like not get too excited. But then you see it with your own eyes, because think about it, we haven't seen this guy, and you're a Hurricanes fan.
I am.
We haven't seen this guy since what, 2019, and a lot of the talk over the last couple of years is that yes, he's physically talented, but he's still a project. And all of that, all those storylines that we've been hearing for the last couple of years, now we get to see him with our own eyes. For people like myself, I haven't seen him at camp. I haven't seen him at practice. So to see him on film for the first time, I'll tell you what, I was pretty amped up. And if you guys are in the premium Slack channel, you heard me a little hyped up hearing and watching football again because of Gregory Rousseau. He was a standout, as you said. You can see some of the PFF grades and statistics here on the screen. Again, he is a presence. And he made his presence known. And that, is what the Bills wanted. I started this show off with the Bills wanted to have this preseason as a purpose. It was intentional, is what Sean McDermott said when he talked about the pass rush additions and what they were trying to do with this offseason. And of course, Rousseau, Basham, Obata. I mean, you saw those guys get added, and now they flipped, a group that was getting on the older side into, and almost a lot of people look at it as a weakness last year, especially when you talk about the games versus Kansas City and how they weren't able to get to and finish versus Mahomes. But they really flipped what was becoming a weakness as far as, especially age-wise with Hughes and Addison and those guys, and really into a strength. And now so much more competition, so much more depth. And there's going to be some guys that may not see the field, and one of them may be Basham. And real quick, before we kind of jump into Rousseau's film, what were your thoughts on Basham and even Obata?
I wish there was more standout stuff from Basham in that first game. He's somebody that, I was talking with Greg about it on the post-game show Friday. Greg and I both went to that first open practice, and I wasn't particularly looking for Basham in that open practice, but I also he didn't do anything that flashed or made me notice him. Like, I also wasn't particularly looking for anyone really, but Rousseau kept flashing, Epinesa kept flashing, Obata kept flashing. And then we came into this preseason game. I didn't love a lot of what Basham had. We saw the running joke of everybody kept talking about that he kept mashing the spin button nonstop to a varying level of success. But, he's still a rookie. He's still got to get those snaps and adjust. But I thought in the first game, he did a lot of what, you and I talked about in the DMs once the Bills drafted him. He plays high at times. Sometimes he doesn't have the right, it looks like he's gassed or he's not playing with the right motor or intention on certain snaps. And he doesn't have the most refined pass rush plan. I thought that showed up in the first preseason game. It was nice to see him kick in a little inside towards the interior and get some snaps there, but still a project and still growing as well. But I think it makes him look, and I don't want to mean it in this way, but he looks worse considering how good of a game Rousseau had, how good of a game AJ Epinesa had. And then you also mentioned F.A. Obata, who I thought was a terror for a heavy majority of the game. It seemed like he did not lose one rep, which also matches with what we've heard during training camp. What I saw at the open practice, just keeps performing. And, Boogie, I think his time will come, but I definitely don't think he had the same level of performance that Obata, Rousseau, and Epinesa did in that first game.
Right. And as I said, they were intentional about, augmenting their pass rush. And they didn't just do it by adding talent, but we even saw some scheme tweaks in this game versus the Lions. In the preseason, that's pretty surprising to show your hand like that. And what I'm alluding to is putting those guys, Boogie, Basham, and Obata, inside. You can see, according to Pro Football Focus, Basham took 3 snaps inside at defensive tackle. And Obata, I believe he took even more than I think he took 4 or 6. Hold on, we'll go back and take a look at it.
I think it's
but that's something that I didn't expect him to show. It's something that I saw on film last year when I was looking at Obata's film actually early in the offseason for his pass rush snaps versus Kansas City, and Obata bumped inside a bunch last year. So to see them go to 4 defensive ends in the first preseason game at the end of the first half, I was quite surprised that they showed that hand, something I expected, but I didn't think that Frazier and his staff would show that in the first preseason game.
Yeah, same. I mean, I think it ties to that old preseason adage of a lot of what you see is pretty vanilla. You're not trying to tip your hand. You're not trying to put too many things on film that your regular season opponents can study and key into and lock into. But yeah, it was cool to see the 4 defensive end package. I wish I could remember who it was. Whoever on Twitter coined it as the thank you, Eric, very much for
E-money.
Thank you. Same way too. The Filminator in the building. Thank you very much, Eric. We appreciate the super chat and the donation. I forget who it was on Twitter that, because when you have that 4 rush edge package, it's kind of like a NASCAR package. And somebody on Twitter coined it as the Lambo package.
Ooh,
I thought that was pretty sweet, like a Lamborghini. Like that was pretty. I think it's Dominic. I don't remember his last name, but Greg pointed it out during the post.
Dominic B, right? Barbara's.
Yep. Something super complicated that I don't know how to pronounce. But shout out to Dominic for coining that. Yeah, it was interesting to see them do that. And I also wondered if they did it because it was less about the specific game and less about tipping things and less about, again, like doing things to win that game and more about exactly purpose. Because like you mentioned with what McDermott said and what we saw with this offseason, what was explicitly stated from Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott, that they believe in building the defense from the inside out, from that defensive line back. And they want to know right now what they have. Can Obata kick inside? How effective can he be? Can Basham kick inside? How effective can he be? And because we've seen so much talk this offseason, how many defensive ends are we going to keep? How many defensive tackles are we going to keep? Well, it depends if so-and-so can kick inside and if we have some versatility and all these things. So, yeah, they were very intentional right from the get-go in this game against the Lions in trying to see who can play what role and how effective they can be.
Yeah, and if you guys missed the presser after the game, McDermott, we're going to show some clips to kind of lead into the film. And before I play this, I do want to let you guys know we appreciate everyone jumping in here live. But because of the issues with the Game Pass and because of being preseason and not really having the All-22, there's a good chance that YouTube or the NFL may shut us down live right here when we start to play this film. But if that happens, don't fret. Jump right back into the link. And if for some reason we're not back up, you can come back to the show. It's still going to record as normal. You're still going to see the film. It just you won't be able to participate live or engage with us live. So there's a good chance that can happen, but we still enjoy all the engagement with you guys. And we're going to try to plow right through this. And we're going to start with, again, the presser with Sean McDermott saying how intentional they were about this offseason. And the question asked was about Greg Rousseau. Let's go ahead and take a look at this and listen. Hopefully you guys can hear the audio.
Yeah, that's what we want to see, right? We want to improve our pass rush. We were very intentional about that this offseason. And so it's good to see, and in particular against a guy that was picked high, like I think it was Panay, right on the other side there. So, so I'm anxious to look at the film and see who else showed up in terms of rushing the passer.
I love that he pointed out who he, it was going against, right? I mean, because you kind of lose sight of that. Once the game's over, you're like, okay, I wonder how many snaps he had versus a guy that obviously, I know it's a big topic on Twitter is, Panay was a generational tackle. Mm-hmm. Well, they did kind of handcuff the guy and kick him to the right side of the offensive line, but that's a whole nother story. But Rousseau, as we're going to see on this play, Rousseau and Harrison Phillips, man. Talk about Harrison Phillips, because I thought he had a really good game, Anthony.
Dude, I was so impressed with Harrison Phillips, especially compared to the reports that we were hearing out of camp that he wasn't looking that great and Zimmer was outperforming everyone. But Harrison Phillips, we saw some of the pictures coming into camp, the 2 kind of glow ups that happened this offseason were Devin Singletary and Harrison Phillips. Harrison Phillips just looking like a unit. He was strong at the point of attack in this game. He was good on the pass rush. His knee looks healthy. I absolutely love the hell out of this clip. And the Rousseau sack is what's going to get the attention. But look at the push-pull from Phillips and then the quick swim move. It's disgusting. He just blows up the guard. Push, pull, swim, pressure. Like Rousseau is going to get the stat. Rousseau is going to get the attention. But this play is really created because Goff cannot step up in the pocket because Harrison Phillips just destroys his man. And if we can get if we can get pass rush production from Harrison Phillips, that is such a big boon for this defensive line.
Yeah, again, you're right. I think a lot of the praise went to Rousseau. We're going to get to the closer angle here in a second about his rush versus Sewell. But Harrison Phillips, this is what he's been working on over the years. This is where he needs to get better. He's always been solid against the run. But as you said, that push-pull here, I mean, just looks how he gets that guard. He's just skating backwards. Because
full
right
extension
into him. Yeah, I mean, full extension. That guy's falling backwards. Totally has him off balance. And then the quick arm over, nice tight rotation right there over the top of the head of that guy. And that's why Goff can't step up, because yes, Rousseau's coming off the edge, but the reason that Goff, when he tries to climb here, he kind of backs out of the pocket here is because of Phillips. And that's when, Rousseau and others are able to finish a play. So a lot of credit should be given to Phillips on this play. He really, it kind of takes me back to the narrative with Greg Rousseau when he was at Miami, and we saw it this offseason prior to the draft about how he was always having cleanup sacks, and a lot of the times it was like that was a bad thing, like the motor and the drive and his ambition to finish a play is a bad thing. Like the quality of sack goes down, and you guys know who we're talking about when we look at those type of advanced stats. But I think it was one of those plays. Rousseau cleaned up. Okay. Well, did you see what he did to this top 10 pick? So let's take a look at this, because it's something that's going to come up in a lot of his film, guys. And it's his ability to leverage the ball and contain the ball when the ball's in the quarterback's hand, and to create a soft edge using his length. So you see him right now, eyes on the ball. So he's timing the snap there. He creates a soft edge. And what I mean by that is, so his point of attack is right here. You see him change that point of attack. So right here, you see his foot plant. He's making the tackle think that he's going to come right through him because the quarterback's setting up in the pocket here. And so he's now coming downhill almost at this guy. Well, he's going to cut back inside. What does that do to the offensive tackle here? What that does is that it forces that guy to become flat-footed right there, because he's got to think about, okay, he's coming back inside. I may have to punch step or power step back inside here. That stops his feet. That makes him flat-footed. And now you see him get right into the body. And the problem with that, once he gets in the body with that length, is now, again, he created that soft edge. Look at this guy's shoulders now. And again, the quarterback's dropping back in the pocket here. So it's not like he needs to come through this guy. What's happening is the quarterback's still dropping back, and he's angling it off out wider a little more. And now he has that soft edge. Look at the length, Anthony. Look at that, man. That's freaking, that's what you draft this guy for.
Gorgeous. You mentioned, talking about Sewell, and McDermott talked about him as well. This is a good Lions offensive line. Sewell at right tackle, Frank Ragnow at center, Taylor Deckard on the other side. Like Ragnow and Deckard both got paid. They have a quality offensive line. And so the Bills' success in this preseason game was so good. I love that. Freeze it with the long arm again one more time. So Rousseau gets the leverage. He gets underneath right there. Sewell is granted, he's still a rookie as well. Sewell is a very highly rated, highly regarded tackle prospect. Some people thought he was like the best guy in the entire class, like the best non-Trevor Lawrence player in this draft. People thought it was Sewell. Rousseau basically just completely owns him and controls him with that long arm. His foot is off the ground. He's horizontal, completely changed his positioning. And then I love how you mentioned it. He uses the length for his free hand to come around and clean up and affect Goff and influence him in the pocket while he's still using his long arm to control Sewell completely. Like that's an exact right comment from Nick there. All we heard going into this was he was the number one offensive line prospect. And the D line got a lot of pressure through Sewell in this game, particularly Rousseau. It was beautiful just to see him push right through, get him horizontal. And you also mentioned, I sent a tweet out earlier today because of that clip. At the half-second mark on that clip, Rousseau is already a full yard upfield.
Oh, yeah, from the top? Yeah.
Yes, it's ridiculous. Like, the ball just gets into Goff's hands. Like, if you go a little before, I think it's like at the 0.555 mark. It's unreal. I was going in slow-mo with the clip to get it. Like, the ball is barely in Jared Goff's hands, and Rousseau was already a full yard upfield. The offensive lineman especially Sewell will go with that because Rousseau's working against him. Sewell hasn't really even started his kick step yet. He's barely out of his stance, and Rousseau has got a full stride and a full yard upfield. Epinesa has a good burst off the other edge too. It's just not seen as much because of Rousseau. So that get off, that leverage, unreal. And look at that, under 3 seconds to get to the QB. Pressure from the entire group. And highlighted by Rousseau there. It was really tremendous. And it was cool to see, especially off the first drive, like knowing that that's what they were working with.
Yeah, 2.7 change from snap to when Goff was affected there, when he dropped his eyes like that. That's what the Bills need. If you can get to the quarterback in sub 3 seconds, that's what the Bills need, especially, versus a lot of these teams that want to throw it quickly against them. That is one thing that offenses like to do against the Bills is kind of break down the coverage, get the ball out, and then force them to tackle. So it was nice to see that they were able to affect the quarterback that quickly. I mean, that's Jared Goff. He's obviously going to be the starter, as everyone's been saying. The offensive line was supposed to be, one of the strengths of the Lions. And you saw how quickly and early in the game when some of those, important depth players like Rousseau, Harrison Phillips, and Ed Oliver were in the game. Those guys were able to affect the quarterback. And again, it's not always going to come in sacks, but if the Bills can start getting sacks like that and affecting the quarterback and finishing, that's exactly what they drafted these guys for. That's exactly why they're going to have to tweak the scheme.
And when you pair that with the coverage the Bills have on the back end, good Lord.
Yes.
Like, that's a tremendous combo.
Yeah. And so we're going to fast forward a little bit to the second quarter, and we're going to see, again, we talk about scheme and how the Bills can put these players in advantageous positions. Guys like Rousseau, they're always talked about with their length and their ability, their versatility, ability to bump inside. And one way that the Bills do that with their grouping is by using this little 5-man front. And so what you're seeing is Dotson is a linebacker on the line of scrimmage. So basically this is a 5-man defensive front. So that changes the pass blocking up front. Usually it ends up being a man-on-man type pass protection. So what happens here is you're going to see Phillips in the A gap right here, and Rousseau is right here, and he's kind of off the line of scrimmage right there. And usually what that means to an offensive line is that there's some kind of twist coming. Maybe he's going to loop inside like that. Maybe he loops all the way across the formation. Usually it's, hey, alert, alert, alert. There's some kind of stunt or game coming. Well, on this play, what they're doing is they're bringing 5 on the line of scrimmage. They're changing that protection, and they're putting this tackle in a bind. All right. So this tackle has to say, okay, do I need to squeeze inside to pick up Rousseau, or do I need to kick out and pick up Dotson? Well, he screws up, and that leaves Rousseau right in the lap of the quarterback. And now the quarterback does get the pass off, but you can't tell me that Rousseau wasn't effective and disruptive on that play. So the throw has to be perfect, and the placement is incredibly important because you have the linebacker Adams right here in man coverage, 5-man pressure, man-to-man coverage, right on his hip, and he's right there to make the tackle on the receiver. So, I mean, it's those little things that, this staff now can do with guys with that length and that ability is, what? Hey, we can kick that guy inside. We can slant him inside a little more on these plays and get him advantageous matchups and attack protections. And that's one thing that, over the years, the Bills haven't really had the ability. When you talk about the defensive end position, and since this regime has gotten here, they haven't had that type of size, that type of length, in droves.
No, they haven't. And to have the horses up front now to take advantage of the slightest type of error, like there is just maybe a half-second hesitation from the offensive line, and the play is done because Rousseau is coming screaming through, and he takes a beautiful straight line angle to the quarterback. There's no wasted motion, no wasted steps. He uses those hands. I also love, too, as he bears down on the QB. He's got his arms up. He's affecting any potential passing angle, passing window, and this is a huge win for the Bills defense. And we're seeing it obviously in this preseason game, but if we're seeing this in the regular season, right, this type of front and this type of look with guys like Matt Milano and Tremaine Edmonds at that second level, this is an easy win. They're holding this to a 1-yard gain on 2nd and 10. And the cleanup you're going to get from guys like Milano and Edmonds is going to be even stronger than the play you see here. And it's, yeah, you mentioned it though, that type of natural ability and get off and speed and size to just be able to affect somebody to the point that if you are just the half second off, we've seen it on the opposite side against teams like the Kansas City Chiefs. If you are off in your technique for just a split second, Tyreek Hill is gone. You're done.
Yeah.
If you're off in your technique for a half a second, Travis Kelce beat you, you're done. Now we've got some horses, it appears, up front who are affecting guys and teams in that manner, to the point that if you're not solid in your decision-making and your technique, Rousseau will blow by you. And to have that threat and that presence up front, is beautiful. Yeah, the good copy. He covers 5 yards in one step. It's unreal.
Yeah, I know, right?
Just to have it. And we saw a lot of this too. You and I mentioned it again, to go back to those pre-draft DMs. We saw a lot of this at Miami from Rousseau, and it was one of the things that was used as a knock against him. Like, well, he was the free rusher. And honestly, it was one of the things that you and I talked about, because it was like, well, he's got all these sacks, but he doesn't have a lot of technique, and he's not winning with a plan and technique and moves. He's just kind of winning because of his raw ability and because of what's schemed. But I mean, at the NFL level, he's continuing to win with that as of right now. And if you can now add and build moves and plan and technique on top of him already understanding what angles to take to the QB and how to get to the QB, combined with his get off and his ability to leverage against the offensive line, it's really a tremendous thing.
Yeah, and shout out to Phillips again, because again, he's sitting in that A gap, and on the snap, he occupies those two, the center and the guard right there. Again, forces this guard to pinch down, but he's got his eyes on Rousseau. But again, that's you don't have enough time, because the guy has the get off, but he also has, again, the length. He can just push that guy aside. That guy cannot recover. And so again, Phillips, shout out to him. He had a great game. He helped Rousseau on this play by being aggressive and shooting upfield. Another good play of attacking the quarterback here. So this is one I posted on Twitter, and it's cool to see the changes, first of all, from Epinesa. Let's start with him, because again, he changed his body. He had a whole off season, and he committed to his craft. He got to its first off season as an actual pro, and I mean, from all accounts from camp and from all accounts from this game, now maybe he didn't stack the stat sheet, but he was effective, man. How impressed were you with, I know you went to one practice, one of the open practices, but how impressed were you at that practice, but also the game speed and the play speed, and seeing a guy who everyone said he's never going to have that burst. I mean, he completely changed his game, and he wins with his speed and use of hands here. But use of hands he's always had, but he was never a burst guy. He was never an up the field penetrator, man. Talk about Epinesa and his revelation, really, his completely changing his game.
I came away from the first open practice, so impressed with him. And, you had done several breakdowns on how successful he was towards the back end of 2020 and how he really started to develop. And he carried that development throughout the offseason, maintain the dedication in transforming his body. Yeah, the burst is beautiful. I also love that when you tweeted out this video, you talked about Epinesa and Rousseau together, how like Milano and Edmonds are together, where Milano is kind of that disruptor and Edmonds will clean up some things. And in this clip, Epinesa is that disruptor and Rousseau can clean up some things. And I think you'll see more disruption coming from AJ Epinesa, because he's added burst to his game as he's changed his frame and changed his body type. But he's changed his technique, and not changed it. He's enhanced it. Like, look at that from the first 2 steps off of his get up. So he gets upfield quickly and the quickest hand swipe. And as he does that hand swipe, he turns, changes his angle, attacks the shoulder. He's already got a beeline on the quarterback. So at roughly 1.8 seconds, he's already beaten his man, and he's got an angle to the quarterback. In 1.8 seconds, he's already clear to the quarterback. He's avoided the running back. He's affecting the QB. He's beat his man. And again, to your point, it's all things that, we never really thought that he was going to have. Coming out of Iowa, he was more of like, a guy who can work on the edge and get kicked inside because he's so big. Nope. He's transformed his body into more of an explosive edge rusher, and he's added that technique. His use of hands in person in that first practice was one of the things I came away most impressed with in that first open practice. And it continued in this game. It's so beautiful. Like, I want to watch it over and over again. He just gets upfield so fast, and the offensive lineman, he goes for that punch, and Epinesa just like a quick, karate, nope. And just swipes
Yeah.
him away, and he's around the corner. And that's what it is too. The fact that he's able to turn the swipe and fluidly turn it into him attacking that edge and getting right around. Oh, like it's gorgeous. It's such a gorgeous move, that hand swipe, and then boom, he's beat.
Yeah. What I like about this too, along with, the use of hands and the speed, but, when he is going against this tackle, the other thing he has to worry about is this running back chipping.
Yes.
So that can change a pass rush plan. But you see him, he doesn't stop to think about, okay, is that guy chipping or not? No, he's in attack mode.
Yep.
And he's not worried about that guy chipping on this third down play. He's worried about just getting to the quarterback as quick as he can. Now, the quarterback does get it off. But he's there pretty quickly. 2.7 seconds. I'll take that all day. I'll take that all day. And it's good defense to rally into the ball here. But the fact that he didn't stop to think, okay, maybe that guy is going to come chip. Maybe he's not. Like, just go get the quarterback, work through it, process that, and, go hit the quarterback. And it was the only QB hit by him on the play. But now he's the disruptor. He is the Matt Milano of the play. Let's take a look at Rousseau, because this is Rousseau in a nutshell. Like, when you watch him, watch his angles and how he leverages the ball, how he leverages the quarterback and really kind of pins him in. Because, okay, you see Epinesa, he's upfield. He's being a penetrator. He's attacking up the field with his burst. But Rousseau, watch his line. It's not this way. It's kind of like this. Okay, where am I aiming to set where the quarterback's going to set up in the pocket? So it's more of an arc. And a lot of people are like, well, yeah, why would you do that? It's not efficient. You're losing ground. You're losing time. Yeah, but he's got the length and the speed, the burst to kind of make up that difference and of making this guy have to kick out this way, not just get depth. So watch his angle to the quarterback. So right now you see him right here wide enough, and there's that plant again. Yeah, now he's telling that tackle, hey, guess what? I'm going to come through you. But again, what that does, it kind of opens a door, because that tackle is now, okay, here comes power, right? Here comes power. I need to brace for that, as you saw in that first clip. Well, he's bracing for contact, and Rousseau's already into his body. Right now he's into his body. Look at that hand.
It's over.
It's over. And so now with Rousseau going right here, it's almost like he's taking a line to the quarterbacks and be setting up here, but he's not. You see the quarterback still dropping back. And watch where he hits the top of that drop, because it's very important, because he's changing his angle through the tackle. He's not just trying to run around the tackle. He's changing his angle after already making contact with the tackle. So now look, the quarterback hits the top of the drop right there, right? So he's right around here. So now look, the tackle's feet are stopped. Rousseau is already disengaged, and now he has that soft edge. He can clear right around the corner on the quarterback right there. That's some stuff that you can't really teach. No. And this is stuff you see on him when you hear the quarterbacks, or when you hear the coaches and you hear Bean and all of these evaluators talk about, he's just got something that he's got a knack for being around the ball. Well, this is what they're talking about. His ability to disengage and fight off the tackle, make the tackle think, hey, I'm coming through you with power. Yes, I got my hands on you, like I'm going to power or bull rush you. But guess what? Your quarterback's still dropping back. And I got a yard and a half. I got a yard edge, a softer edge, where that quarterback's hitting the top of the drop, and I already have the corner on you. And he has the ability to turn that corner. And I was one of those guys that was very critical about Rousseau and his workout at Miami, and maybe he took off the year and wasn't really working out, especially when you talk about those change of direction drills. Yep. Well, guess what? It don't matter. It don't matter when you can create a soft edge like this versus these offensive linemen. Like, this is really nice, man. So talk about Rousseau and what has stood out. Obviously his physical tangibles, but maybe some of the stuff that others aren't really talking about, because this was just for him to win the half-man relationships consistently without rushing right up field with speed and burst. That's a scary thing, because once he puts some pass rush combinations together, he's going to be a force.
The thing I want to hit on that I feel like people aren't mentioning enough or talking about enough is actually something I believe you mentioned either in a tweet or in this video. His ability to understand the drops of QBs and how to affect the drops of those QBs and how to take the angle, and you mentioned even briefly here and doing the film room, but the ability to tie all that physically. So we actually, I talked about it in reference to AJ Epinesa during a film room episode towards the end of the year last year. It's so tough in the NFL, right? Again, this whole play takes 2.7 seconds from the Rousseau and Epinesa perspective. The ability to process everything that's going on quickly enough to get there in 2.7 seconds, but then the ability to process it quick enough and then tie it into what you're doing physically in order to influence the play and do something. That's tremendous for anyone, let alone a guy that's as raw as Gregory Rousseau. Again, we see similar on this play, similar to what he did to Sewell, just that ability to use his inside arm to almost completely control the tackle. And then as he's completely controlling the tackle, like you said, being like, nope, he's taking a couple more steps. Okay, this is what my angle is. And then he goes and he turns and he's there. Like he dips underneath. I also like that aspect as well. Like you and I both talked about like the lack of bend maybe when we drafted him, but he showed enough that he could dip around corners and edges, which is tremendous. But it's that mental connection to be able to process what's going on in front of him. And again, we how many times have we seen it, especially against the Chiefs? You take a pass rush angle from an edge position, and instead Patrick Mahomes is just like, oh, okay, cool, I'm just going to step up and I'm gone. Like sometimes taking a loopy angle or a straight line angle, sometimes even if you beat your man, it doesn't matter. Like you can kind of screw yourself and screw the defense. He takes such a good angle on this play that the quarterback almost has nowhere to go. And in doing that, he completely controlled his man and got to the QB. I was genuinely impressed with this one, maybe almost even more than the one on the Sewell play. Because again, it's a different angle. It's a loopy thing. And you mentioned it with the arc. It's almost like you're taught how you drive a car, and when you turn, you're supposed to accelerate through the turn. That's almost like what Rousseau, the apex of the turn. Boom. He accelerates through the apex of that rush. He starts and then
there, man.
And then loops, and all of a sudden he's in 2 steps, full speed, burst, using that inside arm again to control, and he's through his man. I also want to shout out F.A. Obata on this play, completely wrecking the guard. And getting inside. He's lined up next to Rousseau, and he gets a swipe, a good swipe, and uses his just body inside, and also has a lot of pressure on this play, which is something he did all night. But yeah, for me, we're going to talk a lot throughout the season about Rousseau's physical traits and his physical ability, dimensions, and all that. But I've come away really impressed with his understanding of things, and it also connects with things that Leslie Frazier talked about, where Rousseau is one of these guys where you tell him something once and then he goes back out for the next rep and he corrected the mistake and he did the thing you told him, and it doesn't, and the mistake never happens again. He seems to be, for all intents and purposes, a very high football IQ guy. And you can see how, that would be a true thing because it's translating on tape in just his ability to understand rush angles and rush lanes. He's winning because of his physical ability, but he's also using a lot of mental understanding of what to do and how to attack. And that's my big thing, like his just mental ability to connect it all.
Yeah, and this is, again, that ability to judge where the quarterback is going to set up, and the pocket is huge here. Guy's in shotgun. He's taking, looks like a 3-step drop. Again, and he attacks it like he's coming with power, but really he's just setting that tackle up for a soft edge. He knows where the quarterback's setting up, especially right here. And now he knows that, hey, you know what? The quarterback's probably going to want to step up into it. Look at him. He just makes his surface area of his pad just disappear. And while it doesn't look like he has super great bend here, you don't really see too much ankle flexion. He's on his toes right here. It doesn't matter. He's still able to dip that shoulder and rip through. And then the most important thing is this step right here, the ankle flexion there. You see him. He's able to flatten to the quarterback and take it and meet Epinesa at the quarterback. Just good stuff, man. Good stuff from the young guy. I'm excited to see him more this preseason, and he's going to be fun to watch this year. There's no doubt about it. And a quick guy that I want to take a look at 2 plays still on the defensive side is your boy. Who are we going to look at right now?
I was so excited when you mentioned we were going to do some clips from him. Jaquan Johnson, backup safety, special teamer, somebody who, again, you mentioned earlier, I'm a big Miami Hurricanes guy. Jaquan Johnson was a captain on the Miami defense. He was one of the top safety prospects in the draft coming out the year he came out. People had like an early season projection on him of potentially being a late round first or a day 2 pick, but then he tested, wasn't the most athletic, so on and so forth. He's shown up well in preseason games, in limited snaps, again, against backups. This one, I really liked from Jaquan Johnson. It's a well-timed blitz. It's a well-timed understanding of what the offense is going to do and what he can do to disrupt the offense. He comes downhill fast. And how many times have we seen in clips like these, whether it's the Bills or whether it's some other game, the blitzer just comes screaming past the fullback or tight end who's going out on the pass route, trying to get to the QB. And what does the QB do? Just dumps it over the top. Similar to what Davis Webb did with Devin Singletary, just dumps it over the top and it's a reception and the guy goes. Jaquan Johnson adjusts his blitz, chips, and gets a piece of the man coming in motion enough to disrupt him so that his linebacker can come over the top.
Yes.
And then he continues his run, bears down onto the QB. And we see this play held to about maybe at best like a 2-inch gain.
Yeah.
But and this play is literally all Jaquan Johnson completely blowing up everything that the offense was trying to do.
Yeah, it's great because as you said, with this safety blitz right here, you're having these guys slant inside to open up the edge and soften the edge for Johnson. So he becomes what we call the BCR player. He's the bootleg, counter, reverse guy. He's the contain player. So as that quarterback boots, that's his guy. But he's got to help his teammates out. He's got to help out on this little diagonal route from the backside here, this fake sift block, kind of leaking that guy out on the backside. So for him to get a piece of this guy, it's huge. Because again, these linebackers right here, specifically Andre Smith, who ends up taking the H-back out of fullback out of the backfield. He's got to come downhill because all these keys, they're showing zone run. Everyone's blocking this way. This is showing.
Respect it. Got to respect the run look.
Now you got split flow going across the formation by that guy. He's got to respect it. He's got a gap. As these gaps are moving, he's got to move with his gap. So Johnson getting a piece of this guy coming downhill and pressuring the quarterback, but doing that and being disruptive at the line of scrimmage, it buys Smith time. You see him, he's at the line of scrimmage. Now he's got to recover. That buys Smith a few steps. And Smith, another guy that we probably could have broken down in this film breakdown, but he was everywhere. A great job of minimizing the gain here, and Goff had to get rid of it. He had to get rid of it there. And that's thanks to Jaquan Johnson of being disruptive, not just on the quarterback, but also on the receiver, the target for the Lions on this play. Just a really heady play for a second-year player.
Yeah, big time. He's someone who, when the Bills drafted him, and I understand his athletic limitations, I thought he could function well as that safety around the box, despite the fact that he's a bit undersized as well. He has a good understanding of coverage in the flats and the hook curls, and then coming up in run support like we're going to see on this play as well. I love this one too. I just love Jaquan Johnson, so I'm probably biased.
Yeah, you do.
But you got him arrowed up right there. He gets the crack block coming from the receiver there, but he comes downhill, knows that he's going to get cracked, but instead of letting it phase him too much, he keeps his eyes in the backfield to what's going on in the play, flows off of the crackback block, and then fills into the hole and upends the running back. Like the fact that he is just so almost effortlessly coming downhill, fending off a block that is designed to take him out, specifically take him out. He just flows off it, shrugs it off, fills the hole, gets low, flips the running back. Really, really strong play from a guy that, again, we know is a special teamer, but there's not a ton of tape on him in the NFL for what he can do on actual defense and with defensive snaps. And again, another situation where I think he can be successful around the line of scrimmage, coming downhill, attacking, whether it's receivers or tight ends. We saw a couple plays in this game where he took on some pulling tackles and held his own. It was really impressive, but coming downhill, flowing off of that crack, getting inside to fill the hole, and then just upending the running back. Really, really quality play. And that's also a good point too from Nick. This is their ones, especially that we're working against. I like this other comment from Josh down in there saying the Bob Sanders mentality. Yeah, like that bullet Bob, just physical flow, disrupt things in the run game. Just a really quality play. And I don't think it can be overstated enough because we've talked about throughout the offseason, Hyde and Poyer are so tremendous. But after them, especially now that Dean Marlowe is gone, what does the depth look like? And God forbid if something happens to one of them, what can we do? Jaquan Johnson showed some things in this game that made it seem like, okay, we need Hyde and Poyer, but if one of them went down for a game or two, maybe we can mitigate some things because Jaquan Johnson seems quite capable in certain areas.
Yeah, he click and closes on this play. He's looking at the tight end tackle here, and then he's got the near back to his side. Nasty alignment by this wide receiver. And usually, in a pass, that's probably going to be a shallow drag. But on a run, teams do this so that they can get this force player right here and get Jaquan Johnson with that push crack is what we call it. And you said that earlier. I just like, you see his eyes, his helmet. He sees this block by the tight end and tackle. He sees the near back, and then the wide receiver come down the crack on him. He doesn't hesitate, man. He puts his helmet right in there. He initiates contact, and then again finds the ball. You see, I think this is Obata right here. You see him right here. He penetrates and almost loops himself out of the play as far as gap integrity goes, almost a little too deep. Well, that kind of boxes that play in, and now these guys can play off of it and make it right, what they like to refer as. And so he does, man. He just slides over, finds the ball, scrapes, and makes a tackle in the hole, minimizes that gain. That's some good stuff. And I think this is even Levi executing a crack replace. So he sees that push crack as well, and he's coming down hard. And usually he's going to stay on the outside gap here, usually that C or D gap. But just good run fits here by Johnson and even Levi Wallace. Very disruptive. That's what you want to see on this first down. You want to keep them in second down and long, third down and long, and just a heady play again by Jaquan Johnson. So we wanted to take a look at those two plays before we move on to the offensive side of the ball. So
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I had to throw you a bone there because obviously all 22 isn't out. The broadcast film just dropped today, so I had to kind of do this pulling film from different sources. So I was glad I was able to find something for you on that play. So let's kind of flip the script though. Let's take a look at the offensive side of the ball and talk about Devin Singletary and the run game altogether. What were your thoughts on the run game? I thought, the style that they came out and their purpose was to run the ball, to control the line of scrimmage. That's something you could probably say every game. Yeah. And if you ask Coach McDermott and the offensive coordinator, Brian Dable, that every game, they probably say, we want to control the line of scrimmage. We want, ball control, yada, yada, yada. But when you're playing a team coached by Dan Campbell and what he has talked about and preached all offseason, this game plan of, running the ball and really trying to establish the run game, I wasn't surprised when we talk about purpose. And I thought that we saw a lot of gap runs, something that we, you and I like to see. I like the draw plays. I love the draw plays. We didn't see enough of them last year, and they weren't as effective as they were in this game. They were last year. And we're going to kind of break down some of those plays, but what were your thoughts on this run game? I mean, the Bills, they had some good numbers in the run game. I think he said 97 yards at halftime, out of 158. So a lot of those yards were on the ground, 21 rush attempts to 11 passing in the first half. So again, they came into this game with a purpose, shortened preseason. They need to evaluate, they need to get better, and they wanted to come out and run the ball.
Yeah, I saw the commitment right away, including the hold on the first offensive play, the Devin Singletary run. The Bills came out and ran the ball 5 straight times. In total, before that last drive from QB1, Jake Fromm, we saw that the Bills had 29 rushes versus only 21 passes for the entire game, again, before that final drive. So we really saw that commitment from the get-go, like you mentioned. And it's something that I had my eye on, and I wanted to know what was going to happen this season. You and I did that did that film room on the Bills' run struggles in 2020, and we saw how unsuccessful they were against light boxes, especially from the shotgun. I went back to that and grabbed some numbers. So in 2020, the Bills were in shotgun 70% of the time. And running the ball from shotgun against light boxes, the Bills had 70 runs, which was 10th in the NFL, but they only had 4.5 yards per attempt, which was 24th in the NFL. And they only had a 4.3 broken tackle percentage, which was 25th in the NFL. So we know how effective the Bills passing game is. We know that they want to come out in 3 wides, sometimes 4 wide sets, or just completely spread it out with 5 wides or 4 wides and a tight end, something like that. You're going to get those light boxes. You're going to get attempts because teams are going to have to honor that pass so much. And the Bills were not taking advantage of that enough when they were seeing those light boxes. They weren't doing it. And I think we saw a lot of it in this game of trying to run from those formations and running in those scenarios to see what they can do. We saw the draws that came from shotgun. We saw some gap runs that came out of shotgun. Again, like you mentioned in 2019, the Bills were decently balanced enough when it came to gap runs and zone runs. We saw more gap than zone in 2019, but last year, for a myriad of reasons, like we went through in that run struggle episode, the Bills were almost exclusively a zone running team from like week 6 and on. And it's not really who they wanted to be. It's not what they did. And we saw them switch things up this game. We saw a lot of gap runs. We saw a lot of pulls from the guards, especially Cody Ford. We saw, again, purpose. We saw planning. The Bills came into this game. They wanted to establish something. They wanted to get a look and see, what is our offensive line doing? What can our running backs do? What have our tweaks and our adjustments from the offseason? What are those going to look like and translate into the game? So I thought it was great. I loved the attack mentality from the running game aspect, just really seeing what we could do and how we execute.
Yeah, so 8 attempts for Singletary for 42 yards, but more importantly, 10-plus yard runs. He had 2, 1 over 15. That's what they need from Singletary. And I thought, he was, talk of the town after this game. He really was a standout. He was definitely one of the studs when you talk about studs or duds. He stood out, and want you to talk about what you liked from him in this game, because his vision has always been there. His decisiveness and quickness last year, I don't think they're the best, especially when you talk about zone runs. And we're going to take a look at a couple of these plays. And I thought that quickness that he worked on this offseason, I think you saw that, especially on those draw plays when you just need to get north and south, pick your hole. And even on the zone run that I think was called back early in the game on a Bobby Hart hold.
Yep.
It was decisive, man. Yep. And we'll go over it, but I just thought like quickness and decisiveness were iffy last year, and they stood out to me when we talk about Motor Singletary.
Yeah, those were 2 of my big ones for me. And the other big one I had was the upfield acceleration and burst that he was operating with, whether it was that zone run you mentioned, whether it was the gap runs, whether it was some of the draws. As soon as he got the ball and saw the hole, he was gone. It was a step up field and he was up. We know the other things that he can do once he has the ball. We know about the lateral agility and the lateral explosion that he has. We know that he's good in a phone booth and he can shake off tackles in those areas and type things. But to see that short yard burst, I don't think he's in, you know it as well. He's never going to be this 4.3 burner. He's not, one touch and take it to the house type of guy, but He's got good explosion and quickness in that 0 to 20 yard area. He's somebody who is good with that short area quickness and short area burst. And I came away from this game very impressed with his upfield acceleration on almost every run that he had. He had a hole and he had a lane. He took off, got upfield, and was through the hole and started breaking tackles after that. So yeah, that burst and upfield acceleration was huge.
Yeah, and so we're going to take a quick look at what McDermott had to say about Singletary in his presser, and then we'll break down a few plays, so listen in.
Yeah, I was impressed by the way he ran. Thought it was productive, had some holes, credit the offensive line at times. He made some people miss, and I think we had 90-some yards rushing at halftime, and I was happy to see that.
Yeah, everything, again, was with a purpose, right? When you look early in this game, they came out in 11 personnel, and they ran a zone run. So you're going to see how decisive Motor is on this play. It's just, and one thing that we talked about, and you talked about, just a few minutes ago, is those light boxes. Bills are under center here. They're not in shotgun, but look what we see to the right side of the screen. That's a too high look. That's one thing the Bills struggled with last year. Again, you got a 6-man box here. So as Anthony talked about, you got the 6-man box here because of a too high look. You don't have this safety down here, but that guy's going to insert late post snap. But that's why, the Bills have to be able to run versus these looks. You see the weak side zone run here, and just watch 1, 2, 3. So usually on these zone runs, on outside zone runs, by that third step, the running back should have his decision made. 1, 2, 3, foot's getting planted in the ground, and you see Singletary get north and south here, and he's up the field and he's breaking tackles. Again, it is called back because of a hold right here, but watch the running back Singletary here. Watch him chop down this arm tackle right there. Boom. And then what does he do? He doesn't try to bounce it. He says, no, I want to get, up the field. I want to get to the chains here. He does that, and just decisiveness. And that's one of the things that he struggled with last year when we talk about whether it's runs versus light boxes. He was not very good at all. And he didn't see a lot of 8-man boxes. I mean, if you guys remember, since a couple years ago when Gore was here, he saw a lot of 8-man boxes. Singletary, when he was in, it was either they were passing or he's going to stay in the block. Well, he has to be on the run versus light boxes, and the decisiveness here is going to be key to getting positive yardage versus these light boxes.
Oh, for sure. And, I have that stat ready. So Singletary last year against light boxes averaged 3.9 yards per attempt. That's 61st in the NFL, which is not good. I also found the stat. I pride myself on accuracy. So in 2019, the Bills had 181 zone rushing attempts versus 62. I'm sorry. In 2020, they had 181 zone rushing attempts versus 62 gap runs. In 2019, they had 110 zone versus 156 gap. So they were a gap running team in 2019 before things went sideways in 2020. And then they adjusted and decided, okay, we can't do what we did last year. Let's commit more to the zone. And it was nice to see on this play Singletary being successful again in his decision-making and getting upfield. I also like from the offensive line, I mean, granted, there's the Bobby Hart hold. I like the whole, we saw it so much and it sounds so simple, but we saw so many missed assignments and poor execution last year from the Bills in their running game that led to a lot of problems. And this play is such a good example of just the simple fundamental basics like offensive line, get a hat on a hat, move your guy. And it allows the running back to just kind of pick his hole and do what he wants. Singletary gets upfield really quick. And I love the finish on this run. You mentioned it already. He doesn't get cute. He just continues north and south. He puts his head down. He protects the football. He gets another 3-4 yards. That's all you need. We don't need you to be cute. We don't need you to bounce it outside or try and do anything. Just keep churning out yards because we're not going to be a running team, but we want to use the running game to be effective, keep the defense honest, maintain efficiency, get yards, and then dagger everybody with the passing game. So don't get cute and just keep it simple. And Singletary did on that run. It's a shame it got called back, but it was a nice way to set the tone for him, considering all the talk around the running backs and the running game and all these things. It was a good sign from him right out of the gate.
Yeah, and if you guys don't know, even though that play doesn't count, well, guess it does in the film room. When the running backs go and watch the film on cut-ups from this game, even the ones that are flagged and don't count, you get graded on those. And so, of course, Bobby Hart's not going to be graded well on that play, but Singletary, I'm pretty sure he'll get a good grade on that play because he got north and south. And again, he finished it, 2 hands on the ball. Great point there. Another play here where, you're able to see his vision and his decisiveness of just getting upfield. And I just love him when it comes to draws because, again, Look at the box. Look at what these guys are all doing. They're all thinking pass. They're vacating the box here. And so now you got, everyone covered up right here. And naturally, because they think it's pass, they're reading pass sets from these offensive linemen. You see them fan out and, they're rushing the passer. Well, guess what? That opens up some lanes for Singletary. But guess what? There's only one lane and he hits it right up the middle. And, Bakker doesn't get there quite in time. And the receiver isn't able to get the line's defender right here. But guess what? Motor doesn't care. He's getting north and south, and he breaks the arm tackle right here. And see, this is what's interesting about Motor this preseason game is this guy beat the offensive lineman, right? Obviously, he beat him. But Singletary, this is what, 4-yard difference right here? He screwed up the angle of this defender. This defender should have been able to tackle Singletary, but because of that added quickness in this game, he gets north and south and he breaks the tackle by 41 right there. But I love what he stacks on top of him breaking that tackle right there. He changes direction. So his vision, his eyes are upfield on that defender that is being covered up by Knox. That guy disengages. And guess what? Now he's reading that block, almost setting it up. He's going to come back this way. And I just like that. And that's something he does really well is stack moves on moves when he's breaking one. tackle, and he sees this next defender, the next threat, and he's able to assess, the best leverage or best out route or exit route. And you see that here. And I just really like that. Again, put his helmet down, put his, 2 hands on the ball, and just finish the run and set your offense up for a short yardage situation.
Yeah, this was the play right after the holding. So it's 1st and 17, and you just get such a solid chunk. And I don't want to take anything away from him in the initial part of the run, because the Lions defensive line commits to the pass. They open themselves up completely, but it's exactly what you said. It's that second level where he shows his burst. He runs and splits the defenders completely and then breaks the tackles. And yeah, he's almost like a combination type runner where he turns a stiff arm into a lateral, like jump cut, into a spin, into a this. Like, he's a very good combination runner. And I love, he adjusts his course. He helps out his blocker, who his man is about to get loose, but instead he cuts inside and sometimes you don't need to be the best blocker if you can just almost get in the way of the defender. And then if your running back is talented enough, they can just use you standing there to get in the way and get around the defender. Singletary does that here. He helps out his man and makes the defender have to make a tough play to get around Knox to get to him. Continues upfield, finishes the run again strong, like he did on the one right before it. Again, another tone-setting run from a guy who busted his butt all offseason. We heard the talk all offseason of a new running back. And I love that you mentioned too as well the whole angle changing that Singletary did on that play for the defender. That's something we talked about a lot when looking at running backs like Travis Etienne coming out in the draft this year. His speed, he can change that angle for a defender so quick, and then he's gone and by him. Singletary did it on that play with that short area burst and upfield acceleration, which again is something really nice to see. Getting that explosion, we know we're going to get it from the passing game. We know we're going to get it from Josh Allen. If we're also getting it from the running game, it's another element that defenses have to deal with.
Yeah, and I talk about another element. If the Bills can run power runs with the amount of success that they had against the Lions, it's another tool, another weapon for their run game. So you're going to get a deuce block between the guard and the tackle here. They are working to the backside linebacker as I drew up right there. That's a deuce block. And then, of course, on the snap, you're going to have the puller and Cody Ford. And if there was a stud aside from Singletary on the offensive side of the ball, or even Davis Webb, because he played fantastic.
Yes.
I'd give Cody Ford a high grade in this game because of his run blocking specifically. I thought in the past game, he was good, did a good job of covering up his guy and maintaining decent leverage, inside out leverage. But when it came to the run game, this is his forte, and you'll see it here. So you get the deuce block on the front side of this power run, and you're getting the puller, Cody Ford. You see him insert and then just wipe that guy out right there. Look at pancake down on the ground. And you see Motor getting upfield, making that cut, being decisive. Once that linebacker is coming downhill and he gets covered up by Ford, you see patience by Singletary, boom, upfield. And it's just a really nice play by him. And I'll even throw some props to the front side blockers on that play. And Spencer Brown, he did a good job on this deuce block. You see him. I mean, they're reestablishing the line of scrimmage. This is the defender he's blocking right now. So not only is he, 2 yards off the line of scrimmage, but he's creating width. He's creating this gap that Singletary can hit. All Ford has to do is keep that helmet on the inside as that linebacker flashes downhill. He does. Singletary gets north and south, and they're set up for a third and manageable situation.
Yeah, really great. It's a nice tie-in too to what we saw on the defense, with what the defensive line was doing. We saw them reestablishing the line of scrimmage on so many plays on defense. And here you see the Bills offensive line doing that against the Lions defensive line, reestablishing that line. And it's a nice play from Singletary to get skinny and squeeze through the hole and burst through the hole and establish some positive yardage to, again, like you said, make it third and manageable. But I really like the block from Ford, especially knowing he's a very large man. He's coming off of a significant knee injury that required him to miss the majority of last year. He had surgery. He had rehab. That's a tough thing. He's playing with the brace in this game. It's nice to see him move pretty well in a fluid athletic motion, coming on that pull, recognizing his man. We know that he's physical. We know that he's got that mentality that should allow him to see success in the running game. But if he can also tie that athletic piece to it in situations like this, again, if we can be a successful gap running team, there's a lot of possibilities for this offense. And of all the guys that were in this game at this point, Cody Ford is really the only guy we're looking at to see starting reps, knock on wood, putting him with the ones. So seeing him be successful in that manner was a really encouraging thing.
Yeah, and here's another draw by Singletary, second and nearly the chain, 2nd and 9. You see Ford scoop to the second level because he's uncovered. And again, just opening up lanes because of the draw play, the pass sets by the offensive lineman. And then Singletary getting north and south. And you see him assessing, okay, he's covered up. This guy's coming down. He's assessing, what his route is going to be, where his exit is. And so he cuts it back inside right here. Kind of uses the blocker right there. And again, just moves the chains. I mean, this is not something, Singletary's always been good at draws, but we have not seen him get up to the second level so quickly. And if you can, again, like you said, sometimes the blocks aren't going to be perfect, based on the pursuit, based on safeties coming crashing down as force players in the alley. Like, it's not always going to be perfect by your tight ends, your wide receivers, and your linemen for that matter. But if you have a running back that has good vision and knows how to set up blocks like Singletary can, add in that quickness he has, and he's setting himself up to have a very successful season.
Yeah, this one had one of those plays or one of the moves in it that has been a calling card for Singletary so far in his career, that lateral quickness, that kind of mini jump cut that he makes right here. Where he sees the man dip inside that's on Ford, and he saw the free safety coming down. So he just cut the right. And again, doesn't get lost too much in getting lateral. He uses the lateral move to reestablish a platform for himself to get upfield again. And he goes lateral right here, then plants again, and he's back upfield. And again, how many times have we seen in these clips, and multiple times in this game, we saw him carrying defenders for another 2-3 yards. He's got guys draped on him, and it's not just, well, he's down right there or falling backwards. He's falling forward. He's gaining more yards.
I wish we had the end zone angle of this play, mainly because this guy right here. Okay, so if we're looking at it from the end zone, look at the angle that he has on Singletary. And Singletary, again, his eyes are upfield, and he is going to cut back this way. But it's almost like he has eyes in the back of his head. Look where that defensive lineman is. Look where Singletary is as he makes that jump cut just inside the hash. Now he's making that jump cut and cutting outside, but he still breaks that tackle on a guy that had an angle on him. So he changed the angle of pursuit by that guy, so much so that guy had to arm tackle him above his waist, and he broke that tackle. And like you said, plants again right there and still gets upfield. Contact is made by this other defender right about the 35-yard line, but he pushes him forward, and he's able to fall forward for the first down. So I wish we had the end zone angle on that, because this guy has a free run at him. And somehow Singletary, almost like he has eyes in the back of his head, is able to change that pursuit angle by making that jump cut. I don't think this guy was expecting that. He thinks he has him pinned. He changes that angle, and he's able to make that jump cut and break the tackle there. Just good stuff from Singletary. Great job of moving the chains here and getting the Bills in an advantageous position right around the 30-yard line.
Yeah, all positive stuff from Singletary. And, especially from a guy who he had so many touchdowns in college. That doesn't happen just by accident. You have to have good awareness and knowledge of like situational football and what's going on. And, to be able maybe to have a sixth sense at times. And I think it showed a little bit on that play, him reestablishing himself and screwing things up for the backside pursuit, who thinks, oh, sweet, I got to tackle from behind. And then realizes he clubbed one of Singletary's massive thighs, and Singletary just ran right through the arm tackle.
Yeah, man. It was a good game from Singletary. I'm excited to see him going forward. Let's throw a little props, some credit to Brian Dable. He was one of the best offensive coordinators last year in the low red zone, in that 10-yard line and in that 5-yard line and of course, more times than not, you're going to see man coverage like on this play. But he really put these second level defenders, the linebackers, in a bind here on this little speed boot, and we'll see it from another angle, but this little speed boot and getting the ball to the running backs, man, I was impressed when we talk about purpose. I mean, some of them were check downs. Some of the screens most of the screens were blown up, but the fact that the Bills were trying to get the ball to the running backs in the passing game was also something that I took notice of. It's not something they did a lot last year. 14% of the passes last year were to running backs, was the fifth fewest. So to see them trying to call screens to the running backs, not the receivers like we saw last year, to see them do these little low red zone speed boot type passes to running backs. And again, yes, hitting checkdowns at times and seeing Breida catch passes in the flats as that third option. That is something I think was intentional again. So you see the quick speed boot right here, and he's wide open. Why is he wide open? Because Dable put these linebackers in a pickle. So again, zone run, all those gaps, all these offensive linemen are all going in one direction to the right side of the screen. You see even the quarterback open up in this direction, right? So that's the key for these linebackers. And what those linebackers have to do is their gaps are moving. They have to move with those gaps. So what happens is they get crossed up. And again, this is man coverage. So think about it from a man coverage perspective is if this safety has a tight end, the linebacker right here, 51 and 50, those guys have to somehow cover up the fullback right here and then the running back. Now, usually what happens is, if they switch direction right here, like split flow, these guys will just switch. He'll call it out. 51 will call it out, and 50 will take the guy coming across the formation, and 51 will have better leverage on the running back here, Devin Singletary. Well, that doesn't happen here, and it doesn't take much, and he's wide open. Again, happy to see the running backs get involved in the passing game, not just the running game.
This play is very similar to the first Jaquan Johnson play that we called out where the Lions ran this split flow and misdirection in the backfield, and Jaquan Johnson got a chip on the running back before he got down to Goff, and then Andre Smith flowed over the top and made the play. This time we don't see that. There is no chip on Singletary. 51 or 50, neither of them cover over the top on Singletary. And it's just a wide open play. Really great play design. And again, you nailed it, like the purpose, the idea of getting the running backs involved in the passing game and taking advantage of situations like this. It's a good example of situational football. It's a great play design. And it's another like heady aspect of this team that has physical, measurables and success, but they're also a well-coached and well-schemed football team on both sides of the ball. And, it's nice to see little stuff like this in preseason. I love.
This is the message sent to
to
Singletary too. Like it's almost like a confidence booster. Hey, and to put it on film in that low red zone. Hey, guess what? We do have plays to throw to our running backs. And yeah, maybe a lot of people bring up that Chiefs game and Singletary, and dropping that screen and what could have happened. Well, guess what? They're going to him. They have confidence in this guy. He's put it in the work, and they're going to drop plays for him. So it's nice to see that Dable still has that confidence. And we know Singletary has the ability. He just needs to focus a little bit better on looking balls in and whatnot, especially in the screen game. Him and Josh have issues in the screen game. But I was happy to see them intentionally throwing the ball to the running backs.
Yeah, me too. I don't want to put a negative connotation to it, but I love those kind of cheap yards. How many great quarterbacks have we seen? I hate to even want to use them, but Tom Brady, how much has he thrown to James White and Danny Woodhead and all of those running backs to just get those cheap yards and get like 4 yards or 5 yards at a time, or dump it off to someone and they break a tackle and they turn a 3-yard gain to a 7 or 8 yard gain or a first down, like little things to keep the ball moving, continue to keep a defense honest and make them account for every single person on the field. Again, and if you run something like this in a regular season game, it's another thing that the defense has to think about the next time they're down there, which is already hard enough considering you have to account for Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley and Manny Sands and all these guys. So yeah, really great intention right out of the gate and message sending.
Yeah, and this isn't motor, but it's Breida. But I mainly want to highlight Cody Ford, a decent block, not perfect, but I liked his blocking in this game, as I said earlier, but I really like Breida's cut on this play. So again, deuce block on the front side, double team to the backside linebacker. Cody Ford's pulling, get a nice push crack from I think that's Lance Lenoir, the wide receiver there. But I like Cody Ford's block here. Now he's got a tough job here. You saw him insert on that power run earlier in the game. So this guy's coming downhill, but you can see that the front side blocks here really didn't get that much movement. So this guy's coming right downhill on Cody Ford. So he's got to either kick him out or log him. So he chooses to log him. What that means is instead of, kicking him out, like you saw him get his helmet on the inside on the last power run, what he's trying to do is log him. And what that is he's trying to get his head on the outside and pin this guy in so that Breida can make the cut outside. And so it's a decent read by Ford on this play. and an even better read and cut by Breida, because again, when we talk about where the Bills, what they weren't able to do and get the ball on the perimeter with speed, to see Breida do this on a gap run when he's really a zone runner is also a plus for him. You see him get to the outside right there, and then guess what? He changes, cuts back inside right there, breaks that tackle, and gets inside the 10-yard line there. I really liked his play on that one right there. Let me get back to it. It's just, again, it's something that you didn't really see from Breida. He's not a gap runner, but showing that speed and ability to get outside when things get a little muddy inside, he has the speed to get to the edge.
Yeah, spot on. Everything from the beginning, the block by Ford to just do enough to get his man and occupy him. Yeah. Nice cut out, jump cut out there and read of the block from Breida. And then we get a really nice crack block from Lance Lenoir. And then Breida's one-on-one with that corner coming up. He gets around the edge. He gets around the line, one-on-one with that corner, and a nice little cut and get upfield, breaks the arm tackle. And it's something I want to point out too. You and I were talking about it offline. Breida was gassed at this point. He was sucking wind before they came into the huddle on this one. And right after he makes this run, he immediately calls the sideline and they put Singletary in to spell him. But Breida does all this, and you can just see the way he kind of crumbles at the end as soon as the defender gets him. He's like, all right, cool, I'm done. He's gassed, and he's still able enough to do something that he, like you mentioned, he's not known for, more shiftiness and elusiveness in getting around the Ford block, making a one-on-one defender miss, which cannot be overstated enough. In the NFL, to be a successful running back, you are going to have to make people miss, and it's hard to do that in the NFL. And this corner should, in theory, have him dead to rights. This is one-on-one, and I don't want to hear that, it's a corner and they're not the best tacklers. Doesn't matter. This is one-on-one. The defender should have an easy chance to make this play. And honestly, the defender takes a good angle here. He just has to break down. Breida changes it in a split second, breaks the arm tackle, gets the first down. Really nice run from Breida.
Yeah, Alex Gibbs, the legendary offensive line coach, zone run concept guru, always said, hey, we want to block everyone up. We want the running back to have a one-on-one with a corner. This is exactly what the Bills want, especially when you're talking a power run that's usually going to hit the A or B gap on the front side of that play. He has the speed to bounce it when things get muddy inside. And like you said, his speed coming outside right here to change that pace and cut back inside to make that corner miss is something that the Bills need in this offense. And I was glad to see it on this play. Again, I thought the run game was very intentional. They had a purpose, and it was good to see even Breida, not just having zone runs. How does he manage in gap runs when called upon? Because it's something, Moss is banged up right now. You don't want to have to change an entire game plan because your backup running back is not as effective on gap runs and is mainly a zone runner with speed. It was nice to see Breida, excel on a gap run, but also make guy miss. Again, you talked about it. It's not really something he's all that good at. He's not, he's more of a elusive guy in a sense that, hey, I'm going to make that corner miss because I'm going full speed. I'm going to eliminate that angle. Like we've talked about with Motor in some of these clips. Like he's that guy that will make the pursuit change. And he has the speed to just, make those angles get blown up. And he was
successful in San Francisco because of that zone blocking scheme where it was just like make a decision and hit the hole. And he's so good at getting to 100 miles an hour in such a split amount of time. And then when he gets to 100 miles an hour, he's one of the fastest people in the league. So yeah, he's been successful in his zone scheme where it's just like one cut, you have a hole open up, take it to the house. He really hasn't had to do a lot of shake and bake to make guys miss and create his own yardage. He's taken advantage of being good in the system that he was built for. Yeah, we haven't seen him have to do a lot of that early in his career. So that's a really nice thing to see early on and a nice little added package to this offense.
Yeah, an hour and 18 minutes. We have 163 of you watching live. It was good to be back in the film room, and we appreciate you guys tuning in, engaging, having some fun with it. Apparently some Lions fans came to crash the party.
There's one, and he's
we love it. We love it. Hey, we'll break down film of your team losing. That's fine. I'm okay with that. Welcome and come back next week. All right.
He wasn't impressed by Groot from what I'm seeing from the comments. He doesn't think Rousseau is good.
Hey, it is what it is. Everyone watches the game and sees the game differently, but
that's fair.
We appreciate everyone tuning in. And just a heads up, like I said at the beginning of the show, the format's going to be a little different this year. We decided to change it up. We're not just going to dedicate our, hour and a half to Josh Allen anymore, because we feel like tracking him and really nitpicking every little thing that he does, positive and negative, has kind of, reached its point. He is a very good quarterback now. We don't need to track every little thing. So while we are going to have, those moments of, hey, Josh Allen just had like 7 ridiculous passes that we can't ignore, we're going to break it down. We will. We're going to have Josh Allen clips, but it's not going to be all Josh Allen. As you saw tonight, we're going to mix it up. We're going to have some defensive plays. We may even have some special teams plays. Nick, appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, you were giving a lot of good info for the upcoming season. I didn't want to cut you off, but I also wanted to pull up Nick. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, good dude. He's been a Cover One supporter for many years now. He's in the Slack channel with us, the premium Slack channel. If you guys don't know what that is, we have our own little chat room with all of our contributors, and we got some OG, not just contributors, but some OG, fans of Cover One and guys that have been there since day one, that have always supported us, have always, we are able to do this because of you guys, because of your support over the years. So Nick, obviously, huge thanks to you, man. And he's in here every week with us, not just in the Slack channel, but in the film rooms with us. And we appreciate that donation and everyone's engagement in this episode. So with that said, we're going to wrap this up. Anthony, let everyone know how many different pods you're on, first of all, because you have become the workhorse of Cover One. You're on like 18 pods and doing appearances and whatnot. You'll be joining me in the film room from time to time. So let everyone know where they can find you and on what nights, because I can't even keep track anymore.
Thank you. I appreciate the comment with the workhorse thing. That's a big thing coming from you. I appreciate it. Find me on Twitter at pro__ant. That's pro 2_ANT. I am the host of Disguise Coverage on the Cover One Sports Network. That airs live every Thursday at 9 p.m. I'm also one of the co-hosts with another Cover One member, Greg Thompson, and a friend of ours, Rich Haynes. We are the 3 co-hosts of the Cover One Fantasy Show that airs live every Friday night at 9 p.m. We're actually doing a live show at 9:30 tonight because we adjusted some things because of the Bills preseason game last week. So you can catch the Cover One Fantasy Show live tonight at 9:30. And yeah, you'll find me appearing on the Hoof podcast or the Cover One Buffalo podcast.
Dude, next time I'm just gonna get a graphic, because like literally, I couldn't even write that down in time, dude. You're a maniac, dude. You're like Greg Thompson Jr. over here. Holy cow, dude.
I appreciate it. But you know what? Honestly, it's all due to the fans of Cover One and for you for bringing me on to the team. So I'm super pumped to have all these pods to appear on, both for Cover One and outside of Cover One, whether it's Bills content creators or other teams and other aspects of football that I've been doing. So yeah, I'm a busy man, but I'm super pumped and appreciative of it, and excited to do more film rooms with you and get ready for the season. And yeah, just appreciative of everything you've given me. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, again, thank you for tuning in this week. We will hopefully, as long as we can get the film, break down the game next week as well. Hopefully the Bills can get another W. And we appreciate everyone tuning in. We will see you next week.